What is going on, everybody? Did that end short, or am I just losing my mind? Okay. Welcome to the NHL Strategy Show, Saturday edition. Stochastic. I'm so thrown off right now. I'm your host, Josh Harris. Excuse me. My voice is in and out. It's better than it was yesterday. I will sound like Will Arnett occasionally. I am not trying to do a Will Arnett impression. Joining me, as always, Slim Cliffy. What's going on?
Oh, nothing. Beautiful day here. It's like plus 11 Celsius outside. I think that's like 50 Fahrenheit. So pretty nice day. Bright sunshine. Went to go see Dune 2 last night. It was absolutely incredible. Very much recommend anybody that, especially if you've seen the first one, go see the second one in theaters. It's an incredible theater experience. So I didn't get to watch much of the slate last night. Mercifully, I didn't. Not a real big fan of watching the Washington Capitals take the Philadelphia Flyers, but two teams were on that slate that are playing tonight, Philly and Ottawa, and they're playing each other. Could be some interesting injury news coming into that game. Brady Tkachuk left the Ottawa game late last night. They said he's going to be fine. He's going to be in, but Thomas Chabot, game time decision. We'll talk about that game in a second, but could be some news coming just before warm-ups there. Also want to shout out some viewers and some subscribers that had pretty good nights on Thursday. Florida and San Jose got there for a lot of us, had decent nights. We had a couple takedowns. I'll bring them up. Actually, I forgot to bring it up. Sorry. Max Mark 74 took down the quarter on FanDuel, first place. So really nice job by him. And DFS Jangla on DraftKings took down the $3 max. They both used Florida and San Jose to great success. San Jose back on the slate here tonight. Mercifully, I don't think we have to consider them that much, but they are going to be the bane of our existence for the next 7 weeks.
Yeah, and congrats to you guys. And I've seen some people unit shame. I will tell you this. If you are a medium bankroll player or a high bankroll player, you go try to win the quarter arcade and then tell me how that goes. That is one of the hardest contests to win. So congrats to you guys. That is ridiculously good stuff. We have a super chat, $20 super chat from Clayton Askew. Cliffy, thanks for putting up with my 200 questions in Discord this morning. I did learn stuff, though. I think that's the point of asking questions, but keep your hands where I can see them.
Thanks a lot for the super chat, Clayton. We certainly appreciate it. Appreciate you in the Discord. Always happy to answer questions. Today we're talking about the way coaches handle their teams down the stretch, whether they're a lock top playoff team like a Dallas that we have here on the slate, kind of like the Rangers, I guess, Boston, like those types of teams, and then teams at the other end of the spectrum, Chicago, Columbus, San Jose. So stuff we'll talk about during the games, but always happy to answer questions when we're around in Discord. I'm not around all that often, like late at night. Usually working on the stuff for the next day by then, but Josh is usually there. If not him, then Jake is usually there. There's always usually one of us. One of the three of us is almost always in the Discord, literally any time of day or night. So always happy to answer questions. Thank you for the super chat. Hopefully we can win some people some money today.
Yeah, Jake and I were chatting like 3 a.m. the other day. Like both our kids were up in the middle of the night just talking. Also, rare sight in the chat, another Atlantic Canadian, Matthews over Line. Hey, Cliffy from Nova Scotia. You don't see that?
There are literally dozens of us.
Yeah. And are you from that part of Nova Scotia that has that like the wild horse preserve? Is that the south of Nova Scotia? There's like a wild horse preserve or something.
I don't know exactly where it is, but I'm sure we'll be enlightened. Nova Scotia is kind of it's not like a weird place. It's just a lot of concentration of the population in and around Halifax. And then, there's built up in the south where there are ports, and then the north, you have mines and Cape Breton and all that. But it's like almost everybody's in and around one spot, and everything else is fairly rural. It's kind of interesting like that.
Yeah. Kind of sounds like New Jersey. Not really. Not at all. We actually can get food delivery service. Let's get into the slate. Before we do, just wanted to say thank you to you guys for your support with the affiliate signups, the super chats, even sharing the show, talking shit, anything. Everything is positive for us. We appreciate you guys so much. We couldn't do this without you. Honestly, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you. So thank you guys so much. And let's get into this 8-gamer. Little interesting 8-gamer. There are some big totals on the slate. Let's start it off with the Vegas Golden Knights with a 3.1 heading into Buffalo. The Skinny Swords have a 2.9. Buffalo mixing up their lines and power play units. They're going Greenway, Tage Thompson, Alex Tuck, Jeff Skinner, Middlestat, and Okposo. And then Cousins, Peterka, Benson. Vegas status quo. Jack Eichel could have returned tonight. He is not. He'll probably be back on Monday. I don't know if that was intentional. I think if this was a playoff game, he would have played. You know what I mean? I think they're just trying to not have him come back in Buffalo. Just my 2 cents there. But interesting game. There's not much ownership here on the 8-game slate. We do need a rerun of the top stacks because we have Skinner there. Okposo, or not Okposo, excuse me. Greenway is moving up. I think they're fully correlated now, right?
Yeah, it's those 3 plus Dylan Cousins on the top power play unit.
Yeah. Which I guess is fine, but like I'm probably more interested in Skinner, Middlestat, Okposo. They're gonna. I mean, it's not like I fear the Carlson Marchessault line, but I know the Chandler Stevenson line trades chances at best. So I want to get that good 5-on-5 matchup, and that would be Middlestat, Skinner, Okposo. If you want to leave Okposo off, do what you need to do. I think Buffalo one's fine here. It's not like Vegas is anything, fearful right now with Eichel out, with Stone out, with, the mess that they are right now. Like they're missing a lot of players. So I'm fine with Buffalo 1. I do like Buffalo 2, Skinner and Middlestat. On the Vegas side, the line with the most ownership obviously is Marchessault, Carlson, Brisson. Don't particularly love it. But again, you get Marchessault and Carlson on the top power play unit. Buffalo has been struggling. You can see that by them switching power play lines, switching 5-on-5 lines, switching defensive pairs. They're searching. So I don't mind going to Vegas 1 here. You want to go to Vegas 2. Yeah, they've been bad defensively, but they have been very good offensively, Stevenson and Mario. And I'm not sure Skinner, Middlestat, Okposo is going to be anything to fear defensively. So I honestly think both Vegas lines are in play. And I forgot to add, I think Buffalo 3 is an interesting filler for me. They're actually more expensive, I think, than – no, they're a little bit less expensive than Buffalo 2, but I like the Cousins, Peterka, Benson line as well.
Yeah, I'll start on the Vegas side. Just in general, I wasn't really high on Brendan Brisson, as a prospect. I didn't think he would, really materialize into an impactful NHL player. I will say it hasn't been a big sample yet. Hold on. Whoa. I don't know why my throat got scratchy there for a second. I'm starting to get whatever you have. Hold on. But Brisson and William Karlsson, again, small sample. They've played fewer than 65 minutes, but 73 shot attempts for, 60 against per 60 at 5-on-5, 3.6 expected goals. They've, in limited time, they've been able to create together, which is always what you want to see when you're focusing on a line in DFS. Can they actually create? And they have been. Can't imagine adding Jonathan Marchessault. Obviously with Marchessault there, the sample is even smaller. Don't really want to use it, but Karlsson and Marchessault have been able to drive some offense as well. A couple things that worry me is one, Buffalo's not a bad 5-on-5 team defensively, at least. That is, we talked about it on Thursday. They kind of sacrificed their offense from last year at the altar of defense, and it's worked out. It's just not worked out for DFS. But that Vegas line's only 15K, 4.9% ownership, 4.5% top 2 stack percentage. That's pretty good for a line at that price when there are a lot of mid-price lines. Like there's Tampa Bay's on the slate. They're pretty expensive, like Rangers, Boston, Toronto, but there's no like 24K line. There's only one line above 21,100. So it's not like there are a lot of super expensive lines that we're dealing with here tonight. And if you look at, other lines in that price range, they have a top 2 percentage in line with the rest and are lower owned than a lot of them. Like we'll get to Chicago later. They're lower owned than Chicago. They're going to be right around the same as the Ottawa second line, lower owned than Columbus that we'll talk about later as well. So like, I kind of agree with you on Vegas 1. I don't mind them here. I don't really have interest in the Stevenson Amadio line. They're generating some offense, but Stevenson and Amadio are up to 70 minutes together with 4.1 expected goals against and 91 shot attempts against per 60 minutes. Like, so those are literally penalty kill numbers. They're getting like trading chances is being kind. I think I appreciate you being a little bit diplomatic in that sense. I'd call them just flat out bad.
It's rare for me to be diplomatic, so you should take it when you can get it.
Yeah, that's a fair point. So Vegas 1, I do like them as a mid-price stack here. I do think I prefer the Buffalo side. The Buffalo side's kind of interesting because Jeff Skinner, as we mentioned on the last show, I think somebody was brought up in our Discord as well. Like Jeff Skinner's kind of looked off. He hasn't been shooting a lot. He's lost some ice time and all that stuff. I still think he's a really talented player. And the thing is Jeff Skinner and Casey Middlestat, you and I were talking about it before the show, have absolutely absurd offensive numbers so far this year. Like they have played a lot together actually, because they were trying to, Zach Benson was on the top line. At times they've used Dylan Cousins on the top line, certainly Kyle Okposo, so on and so forth. There have been guys other than Jeff Skinner there. So Middlestat and Skinner are up over 285 minutes together, 5-on-5, 3.2 expected goals per 60, 4.8 actual goals per 60 minutes at 5-on-5. Like that is really, really, really good offense. And I know you don't get any of the guys on the top power play unit with that particular combination because, again, it's the top line plus Dylan Cousins. I don't think a lot of Kyle Okposo, but I guess he's cheap enough. But going against that second line from Buffalo, they should be able to carry the play. They're fairly cheap. And honestly, I think we have to be at the point where we don't consider Buffalo for the power play at all. Like Buffalo has as many goals at 5-on-4 this year as Pittsburgh, and we rail on how bad the Pittsburgh power play is all the time. They have 2 more goals at 5-on-4 than San Jose, and San Jose has played 2 fewer games, okay? This is a bad power play. You don't stack them for the power play. I like the Middlestat line from the Sabres as a filler stack. Middlestat's a little bit expensive for a guy that doesn't shoot on DraftKings. Like 4,500 is a little bit expensive. But Skinner's not that expensive at all at 56. Kyle Okposo's in the low 3s, so they're kind of like a filler-y type stack. So I like Buffalo 2 here quite a bit. I think any Buffalo line is in play. I wouldn't say no to any of them, but I think Buffalo 2, considering how well Middlestat and Skinner have played this season, are my target. I agree with you. I really do like Vegas 1. Yeah.
Agreed there. I went and Googled it because it was bothering me. It's Sable Island. It's off the coast of Nova Scotia where the Wild Warriors are.
Yeah.
Sorry. Just had to.
Thanks for that lesson, Professor.
Clear that up. Ottawa Senators with a 3.1 total heading into Philadelphia. That actually really sucks. The Flyers have a 3.4 total. I drive into Philly once a month, and it just sucks. Like, there's no redeeming qualities of going into Philly. There just isn't. It's not the city of brotherly love. Every time I'm driving in there, I see a hit and run. Anyway, looks like Brady Tkachuk is going to be playing tonight. I don't know when he left the game yesterday. It was kind of in the middle of the game, I think, right?
Well, no, it was like the last 5 minutes. He only really missed one shift, but...
Yeah, there was questions, but it's probably going to be Tkachuk, Pinto, Tarasenko again, Stützle, Giroux, Batherson, and then, Joseph, Greek, Kubalik. They're on a back-to-back, so we won't know for sure. We'll see it in warmups. We were talking about this game beforehand. It's surprising that this got to a 6.5, the exact same totals as the Rangers, Toronto. I guess maybe not, but like Travis Konechny hasn't been playing. He's probably not going to play tonight. There's a lot of ownership on the Flyers lines. We're not going to know Flyers lines.
And we should say, yeah, Torts benched Bobby Brink last night. So if Torts benches Bobby Brink and they lose by 3 goals to a team that effectively is chasing them for a playoff spot, I cannot imagine whatever John Tortorella has in mind is going to be the same lines as last night.
Every game Bobby Brink plays, he scores and then gets benched. And then is healthy scratched for like 8 days, and then plays and scores and then gets benched. It's just a revolving door for Bobby Brink. Sean Couturier moved up into the top 6 in the third period. I would have to imagine he's going to be up on the top line here tonight. I don't know. You honestly don't know with Torts. Like any other coach, you can make like a safe guess and say, you know what, he's going to be back in the top 6. But with Torts, back-to-back, coming off a loss, I don't know. Like, I do have interest, though. Like, Frost and Tippett were good. Farabee. Like, there's going to be a line combination, hopefully, that I like. It's kind of in the scenario that we talked about on Thursday with Carolina. We just don't know the lines. I'm interested in one of the top 2 lines if there's a combination that I like. But we're just going to have to wait and see what John Tortorella does, and that could be an absolute circus. We just don't know. On the other side, like I think if Tkachuk, Pinto, and Tarasenko together, gotta consider them. Like Philly just got nuked by Washington with Urson in net. It's going to be probably Cal Peterson in net tonight, or worse.
No, it could be worse. Cal Peterson got put on waivers. They called up Felix Sandstorm, so
could be some sandstorms. Speaking of waivers, the Caps put Evgeny Kuznetsov on waivers. Wonder if someone might claim him. I don't know. We'll see. But anyway, yeah, I think you got to consider either the Pinto line or the Stützle line here tonight. It's another one of those things where, like, if Torts puts out a decent Couturier line, I probably lean towards the Stützle line. If Couturier, I mean, it doesn't really matter. You know what I mean? Like with Konechny out, Couturier's numbers aren't that great. So, like, I think if you have a lean on Ottawa, you kind of take it. But, like, this game is an absolute mess. I'm thankful it locks at 7 p.m. Eastern.
Yeah. What I will say is that, with the old line combinations, with what they started with last night, there's certainly going to be a lot of ownership on the Flyers because they're not that expensive, right? With Travis Konechny out, you have Owen Tippett at 6,600, and then no other skater on the team is above 5K on DraftKings. The next highest player is Joel Farabee at 5K, and then everybody else, including the defensemen, are below that. So it is a cheap spot with a high total that is going to draw ownership. Kind of the nice thing about Torts almost certainly blowing up the lines here is that we might get some like low owned line combinations right at lock. We always say it in the article, pay attention to the Discord for updated information before lock. That's certainly going to be true here today. I did write up Owen Tippett in the picks article. Owen Tippett, we've had him in the picks article a handful of times. Like, the guy just absolutely won't stop shooting. Last 20 games, he has 10 goals, 95 shots, so 4.8 shots per game. And he's reached the DraftKings shot bonus in half those games, 10 out of 20. He has just been, even when he doesn't score, he can bring like pretty good DFS value, right? Like, if he gets 7 shots and an assist, like, that's a pretty good DFS night. Whatever line Owen Tippett is on is probably the line that I'm going to have most interest in. Like, he did play towards the end of the game with Sean Couturier last night. They were at 3.0 expected goals, 3.1 actual goals per 60 minutes without Travis Konechny. So, like, they've been pretty good offensively. If it's Couturier and Tippett, they'll probably go out against the Pinto-Tkachuk line. Pinto and Tkachuk, like, listen, they've been really good offensively, but they've been atrocious defensively. 3.1 expected goals against, 3.6 actual goals against per 60. Ottawa is going to be starting an AHL goalie here tonight. And it's funny, Josh said before the show, surely he can't be any worse than the goalies in the NHL that the Sens have had this year. To which I said, this guy has an .881 save percentage in 25 career NHL games. He might actually be worse than the guys that Ottawa's been running out this year. So if it's Couturier, Tippett, X, like whether it's, Cam Atkinson is there, or whether they, Tyson Forster's played up there at times, whether they just go back with Bobby Brink and try to, get him to play through it. I do have interest in whatever line. It's whatever line is Owen Tippett is on is the line that I have interest in, especially if it's him and Sean Couturier. On the Ottawa side, like Sandstorm and net, I mean, it's not like Urson has not been playing well for a while. The Flyers defense is still good, but it's not like lockdown elite as it was like a month, 6 weeks ago. They have been on a little bit of a slide defensively. I do like Ottawa one for that reason. Like, for as much as Tkachuk and Pinto give it up defensively, like this is the line that does trade chances. Like you were talking about Stevenson in the last game, this line, 4.7 expected goals for, and like I said, 3.1 against. Like they are really, really trading chances. 146 combined shot attempts per 60 minutes when they're on the ice. Anything above like 118 is high event. They're at 145. So they do like the trade chances. I do like Ottawa one here, especially where they're not coming in with that much ownership, 3.7%. But I think this is a night where I would be perfectly fine playing, Atkinson, Couturier, Tippett, or whatever it ends up being. We just have to wait for warm-ups.
Yeah. I am interested in this game, but I need to see warm-ups because, Torts could put, Couturier in between, Lixell and Delorier again. You never know. So Alex says Kuznetsov feels like a Lou Lamoriello guy. Oh, my God. Please go to the Islanders. That would be incredible. Anyway, Montreal Canadiens with a 2.6 total. Heading into Tampa Bay, the Lightning have a 3.9. Okay. I mean, this is clearly the primo Haas spot of the night. Kucherov point, Hagel, 22,400, 38.3% top two stack percentage. That's normally reserved for Colorado 1 on any slate. They have 21.4% projected ownership. It's still positive leverage. That's a lot of ownership, though, for an 8-game slate. Understandably. They're not fully correlated, but, it doesn't matter. Hagel is just a year behind Carter Verhaeghe. Like, next year, maybe he'll be on Power Play 1 and have, a 100-point season, if he got the full Power Play time, instead of Nick Paul. Anyway, I do really like Tampa 1 here. There's no matchup concerns, really, for this line. Kucherov is ridiculous. So I'm fine with Tampa 1 here. It's just a matter of if you want to spend $22,400 tonight. There's a lot of mid-range lines that I like, so maybe you don't need to spend up. But you have, the Rangers second line over 21,000. You have Boston at 21,000. You have the Matthews line over 20,000. But after that, it's just a lot of mid-range stuff. So, Dallas is going to be wildly popular. So maybe, spending up for Tampa Bay, even though they are 21%, you can find a cheap filler with not much ownership and go about your day. It's just, with these really expensive lines and unbelievable spots, I don't really know what to say anymore. It's the same with Colorado and Edmonton. You can play them. They're going to score. It's just a matter of, are they going to get you enough with that filler line to be optimal? You know what I mean? So I'm completely fine with Tampa 1 here. They're probably my favorite line of the night. If you don't, include price, ownership, whatever, they're in the best matchup. You throw in the price, I think 22.4 is fine. I've played a $26,000 Edmonton line and was able to fill out a lineup, so I don't think it's super price prohibitive. I think what you could do if you want to get lower ownership is you take out Hagel and put in Stamkos for more power play. But leaving Hagel off, honestly feels bad because he's easily their best 5-on-5 player. Not easily. Kucherov is pretty nasty, but Hagel is great up there. So Tampa 1's fine. Tampa power play. On the Montreal side, I don't mind Montreal 1 here. Yeah, Tampa is very, very good offensively, but they're not great defensively. Montreal 1 has been very good. Suzuki coming alive. Slavkovsky looks good. So I don't even mind hitting some Montreal 1 and MME. They're coming in at 2.3% projected. That's not much ownership. It's not hard to get above the field there. And they're not in the worst spot, so I don't mind them either.
So this is the third game between these two teams. And Tampa Bay won the first two games, but I should mention Montreal scored 3 goals in both games and outshot Tampa across the two of them, 55-52. Like this is, I trust me, I get Montreal's low total of 2.6. I also think it's another one of those situations where if they're going to score, it's probably going to come from the top line, right? The top line for Montreal has been playing really, really well since the All-Star break. 145 minutes since the All-Star break, just a little under. 3.6 expected goals for, 4.3 actual goals for. Yuri Slavkovsky, point per game player, nearly 3 shots per game in his last 12. Cole Caulfield, not scoring a ton, but over 4 shots per game in his last 12, going back to the All-Star break. So, like, this is a team that's generating a lot of offense and has been over the last month. Tampa Bay's really not been that good defensively. Their expected goals against isn't bad. The goaltending has kind of let them down. I don't mind Montreal 1 here for their ownership. 2% ownership is really, really good for a fully correlated line. On a fully correlated line under 18K on an 8-game slate facing a Tampa Bay team that is neck and neck with New Jersey for goals against per minute since January 1st, like over 2 months now. Like it's kind of what I know. Tampa Bay has like this aura about them a little bit, but just take out Tampa Bay, put in New Jersey, and then imagine whether or not you'd want to play Montreal in that matchup, right? Like that's kind of what we're looking at here. So I don't mind Montreal 1 at 17,900. I think Montreal 2 is fine as a filler, but the thing is like there's not a lot of expensive spots on the slate. Like Boston's like 21K, the Rangers Panarin line is about 21K, so like there's that. But other than that, unless you're game stacking here, like there isn't a need for a sub 10K line. But Newhook, Armia, Roy, mentioned them on the last show. Their last game was probably the worst game that they played together. So, slander list goes the other way too, I guess. But they're at 3. Roy and Newhook are at 3.4 expected goals for, 2.1 against per 60, out shooting the opposition in their time together. They're going to face off against that Kucherov line, which better defense with Hagel, but has typically struggled defensively this season. But I do like Montreal 1. Like a fair bit in this matchup. Like there's nothing about the matchup that's really concerning. The thing is like they're about the same price as the Ottawa 1 line that we talked about. There's a Rangers line coming up next that we'll talk about that I think I like a little bit more. That's just kind of what it is. But yeah, Tampa 1 is what we're focusing on here. I wrote up Nikita Kucherov in the picks article. Like the projections have Kucherov and Pasternak like way out ahead of everybody else. In fact, it's kind of funny. On DK, they're both over 20 points. And then the next closest skater is Austin Matthews at just over 15. So, like, they're expecting a lot from Kucherov here. Obviously, Kucherov, Hagel, and Point, great offensive numbers together this season. 310 minutes together, 3.4 expected goals, 4.3 actual goals per 60. Since Hagel got moved up, I think it's been 7 games now. They're all skating between 20 and 23 minutes a game. Like, that's pretty important as well. It's a great power play matchup. Montreal is taking more minor penalties per game than any other team on tonight's slate over the last 2 months. So pretty good power play matchup for Tampa Bay. Not worried about the 5-on-5 matchup really for the top line because they do see second and third line matchups, and I'm not overly concerned about those. So Tampa 1 certainly in play. I think Montreal 1 is definitely in play as well, and I don't mind Montreal 2, at least a 2-man of like Newhook, Armia, Newhook, Roy, probably Newhook, Armia, a 2-man, especially where Newhook's on the top power play unit for Montreal 2.
Yeah. I do like Montreal 1, but not as much. The Rangers. So let's talk about them. New York Rangers with a 3.1 total. Heading into Toronto, the Maple Leafs have a 3.4 total. Capo Caco up on the top line with Mika Zibanejad, Chris Kreider. Panarin line as normal. Panarin, Trocheck, Lafreniere. Third line, Brzezinski, Cooley, VC. Toronto going status quo for them. Domi still centering the second line. Tavares still centering the third line. Now, I don't know if you noticed, but a goalie for the Rangers won third star of the month, 7-0 in the month of February. No, he's been very good. He has looked good since he got that little extra rest after the All-Star break. If you want to play Toronto here tonight, I think it's fine because their ownership is so low, and whenever you get Matthews super low, it always makes me nervous. So I think Matthews is a very good one-off here tonight. I think power play stacking is a nice way to get different in the large field GPPs. Where you can beat Igor when he's on is still on the penalty kill. So even if Igor is quote-unquote back or whatever, you still can beat him on the penalty kill. So I think, Toronto power play, something with that is fine. I'm honestly more interested in the Rangers side. And I'm a bit of a predicament here because I want to think that the Matthews line isn't going to go out all the time against Zibanejad. Like, teams are starting to treat Trocheck Panarin as the top line.
I was looking at matchups from like the last few Rangers road games, and it's been pretty consistently top like shutdown lines going out against Panarin.
Yeah, which would free up Zibanejad and Kreider Kako against Domi, and that is very advantageous towards the Rangers top line. And you could say, oh, Zibanejad's not having the best season, and you'd probably be right. But like with Capo Caco there, they generate a lot. They just haven't been finishing. Give me 6 lefties on the blue line and some Toronto goaltending, although there is a righty in there. Ilya Lyubushkin in with Morgan Riley. I do really like the Rangers top line here tonight. Coming in at 0.6% projected ownership. There, you get 2 of the 3 guys on the top power play. Capo Caco has looked good up there. I don't know why they ever took him off. Like, I understand why. Like, they weren't finishing. Caco looks like he belongs up there. I'm in on Rangers top line here. You want to play the second line? Go for it. 21-1, 1.3% projected, but I'm more in on Zibanejad, Kreider, Caco. And I think Toronto power play stacker or Matthews one-off is a nice way to get different in large field GPPs. So
I did write up the Rangers top line in the picks article today, the Caco, Zibanejad, Kreider line. Picks article, free to read Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday here at Stochastic. Just head to the NHL section. A big reason why I did like the Rangers top, I mean, there's 2 reasons. One, I don't think they're going to, they'll see some of the Matthews matchup because Matthews just gets a lot of ice time at 5-on-5, but they're not going to see that much when they're going to see more of Domi. And what I mentioned is that in calendar 2024, expected goals for Toronto goes up by over 30% when the top line is off the ice, and actual goals against more than doubles. So it is a much better matchup for Kreider, Zibanejad, and Caco going up against the second and third lines for Toronto than it is going out against Matthews. So that's part one. The other part is there's no ownership, as you mentioned. 0.6% on the Rangers top line. That's actually gone down. When I wrote the article this morning, it was at 0.9%. That was another reason why I wanted to get them in there. It's like that. There's absolutely no ownership there. The Toronto penalty kill, it's been a little bit better over the last few weeks. Really hasn't been that good for a couple months, though. Below average, average at best. That area is about the best you could say, depending on which metrics you look at. So you get 2 out of the 3 guys on the top power play unit. The reason why I don't like the Rangers top line is because they can't finish with Caco there. Honestly, man, it's crazy if you look at the Rangers top line with Chris Kreider, Mika Zibanejad, and Capo Caco are pretty dominant at both ends of the ice and just absolutely cannot score. So far this season, they have almost 200 minutes together. 58.5% expected goal share, 1.5 goals per 60 minutes. That's like Jordan Stahl during a bad month type stuff. Last year, okay, different coach, but last year, 230 minutes together, 2.7 goals per 60 minutes, almost a 60% expected goal share, complete and utter dominance of the opposition, and basically league average goal scoring, shooting 6.6%. The year before, 250 minutes together, 55.6% expected goal share, 2.1 goals per 60, 2.7. Like, it's year after year after year of hundreds of minutes together in every season and not scoring. Like, the best they did was last year, and it was slightly above league average. Like, that's why I don't like seeing, like, if you want to leave Kako on the top line, fine, because they are really good defensively, but then they're a shutdown line. They really are the Jordan Stahl line. They're a $17,500 Carolina 3. That's what's kind of bothering me about them here, is until they can actually show any ability to score at 5-on-5, then you're stacking them just for the power play. And if you're just going to stack them for the power play, play the Panarin line, who's actually good at 5-on-5. Like, that's just kind of the way that I look at it. So I think despite writing up Rangers 1, like, there's no ownership on them. They're a cheap, middling price stack. They get better 5-on-5 matchups, et cetera, et cetera. Until they show any ability to score at 5-on-5, I'll take the line that is actually scoring at 5-on-5, and that's Panarin, Trocheck, and Lafreniere. Going to be honest, I don't really love the Rangers as a stack on like either line here tonight. Like, I just don't. On the Toronto side, Toronto 1, not coming in with much ownership. Matthews, Marner, nice, 2.9%. 3.2 expected goals per 60, 4.6 actual goals per 60 since the All-Star break. Marner's not shooting at all. That's one of the things that kind of bothers me, is like, if he's not shooting, maybe he gets a goal like every 7 or 8 games or whatever. But you're basically relying on him to get 3 assists for any DK value, and it's a lot to ask, right? So honestly, I think one-offing Matthews obviously would make a lot of sense here. One-offing Nylander, 2-man of like Nylander, Bertuzzi for some power play stacking. That's kind of where I'm at. I don't know if I like 3-man stacking basically any line in this game.
Shitting in my pancakes.
I mean, you know what I mean? Like, you and I have talked about this with Kako. That's why I don't like him on the top line, just in general, because they just don't score enough, and they haven't scored enough, like I said, for hundreds of minutes every season for 3 years now. Like, how much more do you need to see before you realize you're turning Zibanejad and Kreider into a shutdown line?
Yeah, I mean, their actual goals are half of their expected goals this season.
They're Frederick Gaudreau and Marcus Foligno. Congratulations.
I think I still might play him tonight. You can sign up using the link in the description box below or the link in the chat to get the access to the best NHL data and tools in the industry. You get player and ownership projections, top stacks tool, line combinations, and you get access to the premium Discord, which you do need a membership to be a part of. As Cliffy says, one of us is always in there almost all hours of the night and day. So if you have strategy questions, life questions, whatever, I talk about some random shit all the time. I'm weird. But anyway, you can click that link in the description, sign up, get in the Discord, and say you came from the show. We'll give you a nice warm welcome. Boston Bruins with a 3.1 total heading into Long Island. That's even worse than going into Philly. The Islanders have a 2.8. It's like they've been doing construction on the same part of the Long Island Expressway since like 1907, and it's never going to be done. I just don't get it. But it's Boston, so I hope their bus sits in traffic for 7 hours. Boston going with Pasternak, Marchand, Coyle, DeBrusk, Zacha, James Van Riemsdyk. Islanders still with the loaded top line, Palmieri, Lee, Pajot second line, and then the bottom 6, whatever. I don't want to like this game, but I kind of do. Why? I don't know. Like, I kind of like Islanders 1 here. And I know they're going to not see the Pastrnak, Marchand, Coyle line, which I was kind of hoping they would, but they don't do that at home. The DeBrusk, Zacha, Van Riemsdyk line, it's a smallish sample, but they haven't been great defensively. And, that line is fully correlated on the power play. Boston has been taking a fair bit of penalties. Their penalty kill has been okay, but like the Islanders' power play is good. I was kind of hoping they wouldn't get 8.5% projected ownership. It is positive leverage, but like I was kind of hoping with the 2.8 total, they'd be down like 3-4%. They're not. They're a little bit more popular than I want them to be, but I don't mind taking a stab there. On the flip side, like I always have a hard time playing Boston outside of a Pastrnak one-off. I just like Pastrnak, Marchand together. Their numbers aren't great. Charlie Coyle, like I like Charlie Coyle, but for 21,000, like I'm finding the money to play Tampa 1 at that point. I'm finding the $100 to play Rangers 2 at that point. I don't want to play that line at 21,000. It's a very good power play spot, and I think you can do some stuff with the power play. I just don't want to pay 21,000 for that 5-on-5 spot. I think you can power play stack, go like Pastrnak, Marchand, DeBrusk, something like that, and go about your day. I like the Islanders. I wish they weren't getting a ton of ownership for the 2.8 total. So maybe I won't prioritize this game in 1-3, but it is on my list.
So I kind of agree with you with Boston. Like if you can find 21,000 to play Boston 1, like just find an extra 1,000 and change to go play Tampa. This isn't that bad of a spot for a few reasons. One of the reasons why we didn't really like stacking against the Islanders is despite having a bad penalty kill, they really didn't take a lot of penalties. But as we mentioned on the show a couple days ago, this team has been starting to take more penalties, especially if you look at the time since Patrick Waugh took over. He took over from Lane Lambert. I almost forgot his name there for a second. Took over from Lane Lambert. It's been 14 games now. And in those 14 games, 46 minor penalties taken for the Islanders. That's about 3.2 per game. That is definitely higher than what they were doing earlier in the season. And the penalty kill itself has been worse, which seems almost unfathomable, but it actually has been. 14 games under Patrick Waugh, 5th most shots against per 60 minutes when down a man, 2nd most goals against. The only team that's been worse in that span is Columbus. Get to them in a little bit. And the Pajot-Lee line, like the defensive numbers aren't bad. 2.5 expected goals against for Lee and Pajot together. But 2.5 expected goals against is about league average. So this is a league average shutdown line against a Boston top line scoring 3.9 goals per 60 minutes and 5-on-5 in a tremendous power play spot. Like I kind of like Boston 1 here. I really do. I think like I agree with you. Like if you can find the money, like just go play Tampa. But I think if you're playing like even a 3 max or 20 max, certainly. This makes a pretty good low-owned pivot, I think. So I do like Boston 1 here. I have no interest in the Boston depth. Islanders 1, don't have a big sample together yet. Brock Nelson, though, 20 minutes and 35 seconds on average in his last 5 games. That's most of that time's been spent on the top line. 22 shots in his last 5 games. He's really been coming around. I agree with you. I'd rather see them go out against the Pastrnak line, but I get why they're not doing that. 19,300 at 8% ownership. Boston has been taking fewer penalties, but the Islanders have been drawing more power plays, so that kind of balances things out. I do kind of like the Islanders top line here, but I'm going to be honest. I think I like Boston 1 the best in this game, even though they are 1,700 more expensive.
Yeah. I mean, if they had Charlie Coyle on the top power play unit,
and it's a good point by Alex in the chat. Like, if the Islanders are down like 5-3 with 10 minutes left, Patrick Waugh is pulling the goalie. You know what I mean? So, like, You just keep that in mind.
And he'll keep pulling it too. It'd be like 8-3 after 3 empty net goals. He's like, again. And then it's like tin cup. But anyway, let's talk about the Sharks. Do we have to?
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to. San Jose Sharks with a 2.2 total. Heading into Dallas. The Stars have a 4.2 total. Oh, that's painful. Oh, that is painful. This is not the Ducks, okay? They're not playing the Ducks. I don't think you need to consider the San Jose here tonight on the road in the 2.2 total. They did score a few power play goals with the 5 forward group, which makes me believe that they're probably going to use it again, which gives me a migraine. Like, if you want to one-off Duclair, I guess you could, but like, I'm out on the Sharks in my single entry. Dallas is a whole nother conundrum. Robertson, Hintz, Pavelski, 20.2% projected ownership. I don't know. Like, I just don't know if I want to play them. Like, I don't like that line with Pavelski. It makes me nervous. Like, I would rather play Johnston, Ben, Stankoven at 12.7%. They're 12,200, coming in very negatively leveraged. But, like, you watch Dallas Stars games, and they look like the best line on the ice. And that's kind of important. Yeah, like, Ben's on the top power play, and you get Johnston and Stankoven on the second power play unit. But, like, they kind of split power play units, and that second unit has been better. So, like, if I'm going to eat the ownership, I'm going to eat it with our boy Stankoven. Now, I think, interestingly enough, Duchesne, Marchment, Dellandrea could be interesting because they're coming in with the lowest ownership here. And they're going to get middle six matchups of the Sharks. And, like, me, you, and Frostback could score against the middle six of the Sharks. Accidentally, of course, in GTA 6. But, like, we could. So, like, if you want really low ownership and a 4.2 total, I think you could do like a power play 2 stack, go Duchesne, Marchment, leave off Dellandrea and add in Harley or add in, Stankoven or something like that. Like, Duchesne at 4% in this matchup. Like, Duchesne's having an incredible season. Like, yeah, Dellandrea is not Tyler Seguin, and Seguin's having a very good season. But again, this is middle six matchups against the Sharks. Their middle six lines are giving up 4 expected goals against per 60. That's awful. So, yeah, like, if I'm going to eat the chalk, give me Johnston, Ben, Stankoven. But if you want a little bit lower ownership in a 4.2 total game, I think Duchesne, Marchment, Dellandrea is fine. Obviously, you can leave Dellandrea off and add in another power play 2 person for a power play 2 stack, which is fine. But, yeah, like, Dallas 1 gives me extreme amount of pause. I'm not going to tell you not to play him because it's a $17,100 line fully correlated against the Sharks in a 4.2 total. But, like, you've talked ad nauseum about the numbers with and without Pavelski on that top line, and I'd just rather play a line that looks good to the eye, the numbers back it up, and that's the Wyatt Johnson line.
Yeah, the Pavelski line, they did have a pretty good game in their last game out, so they kind of shut us up, just like a little tiny bit in that one. But, obviously it's a great matchup, all that stuff. The reason why they've been, scoring so much is because they are very efficient with their shooting. When that efficiency dries up, there aren't other things that they can do to make up for DFS value, right? Like, that's kind of one of the issues that I have with Dallas is, like, it was great last year when Jason Robertson was at like 4 shots per game or whatever it was, but he's just been not shooting a lot. So you're not going to get those games from him where he has, 2 assists or 1 assist, but like 9 shots on goal, and that gets you your value. Like, you're just not going to get those from him. I mean, it's San Jose, like, weird things happen, but that's just kind of one of those things that worries me. 20% is high. That's a lot. I certainly understand why Dallas 1 is at 20% ownership, we talked about Montreal and Ottawa. Both those lines are coming in under 5%. We'll talk about the Columbus in a second. Not super on Columbus, but there are other options. Like, they are the clear top mid-priced option. Like, let's get that very straight. But the Dallas power play hasn't really been doing a lot. Like, you talk about the top unit has been worse than the second unit. Some of it's shooting percentage related, but they've only scored, I think it's like 3 goals per 60 on the power play since the All-Star break. Hasn't been that great. I kind of agree with a Dallas power play 2 stack. Like, I don't think you have to full stack all 5 guys that are on that unit. But you have Duchesne and Marchment on the secondary power play. You have Stankoven and Wyatt Johnston. You have Thomas Harley. It's pretty cheap to stack, so you can put in, like, you could probably put in like a one-off David Pasternak or something if you want with them. And I mentioned Dallas. I talked about Dallas 3 in the picks article. And one thing I mentioned is something that we talked about at the top of the show was coaches giving less ice time when they're playing lottery teams like this. Like, especially when you're like, you don't want to be the coach that plays Jason Robertson 22 minutes against the San Jose Sharks and he gets hurt, right? Like, there's just no reason. There's no need to do it. When they were in Montreal a couple weeks ago, none of their stars forwards had more than 11 minutes and 40 seconds of even strength ice time. Now, they had a lot of power play time, so I think, they're like, it's around 17 minutes because they got 5 to 6 minutes of power play time, but they didn't get a lot at even strength, and I suspect that it'll probably be kind of the same here tonight. That gives more ice time to the guys in the middle 6. I do like Dallas 3, Stankoven, Johnston, Ben, despite that ownership. I do think taking off Ben and putting on Duchesne or putting on Marchment or something like that and making it kind of like a broken power play 2 stack is the approach that I would take there. So Dallas 3, but more Dallas power play 2. I have no interest in the Sharks here. If you want to play the Sharks, go with God. That's not for me.
Yeah, we've hit banana land in NHL DFS. It's March. We're recommending broken power play 2 stacks. But, that's what happens when you play the Sharks. Something I like to do, and we'll talk about at the end, you play the big defenseman against the Sharks because they're still going to play the minutes. And Tanev is still out tonight, so Harley and Heiskanen pretty good plays here tonight. Columbus Blue Jackets, 3.2 total, heading into Chicago. It's going to say the Bears. The Bears. The Blackhawks have a 2.9 total. Oh, boy. All right, so the Jenner Gaudreau-Roslovic line has been very good. They're getting 7.3% projected ownership, which is a little bit of negative leverage. Don't have too much interest there because they're going to see the Dickinson, Blackwell, Anderson line. We had a deep dive on that line last show. They're excellent, which is insane because this team is going to be a top 3 lottery pick. And like, Dickinson's having an unbelievable defensive season. We don't need to go further, but Columbus won with negative leverage. I'm out on in that matchup because they still have a pretty good penalty kill. Marchenko, Chinnikov, Voronkov is a little bit different. Now, earlier in the season, I would have said, hell no, because they were not creating anything. Their actual goals were wildly higher than their expected goals. That has evened out. And they're going to be in a good matchup. Way better than the Dickinson-Blackwell-Anderson matchup. And they're coming in at 1.2% projected ownership. I honestly thought they were going to be chalky tonight. Maybe they come up a little bit, whatever. I don't think you need to full stack, but like 3.2% or 3.2 total is large going into Chicago. So, like, if the scoring's not going to come from Jenner, Gaudreau-Roslovic, it's probably going to come from Marchenko, Chinnikov, Voronkov. There's going to be a lot of Russian kitty gifs in our Discord tonight if they go off. Like, I don't think you need a full stack. I think you go like Marchenko, Chinnikov, or Voronkov, Chinnikov, or Voronkov, Marchenko. I was preparing for an MMA video, so I had those Russian names down. Pat. So I like Columbus too here. And I think this is a nice spot for the Bedard line. Now, Bedard's with Donato tonight and Kurashev. And for whatever reason, like they yo-yo Donato all over the lineup, but his best numbers are with Bedard. Bedard's numbers are better with Donato. It just is what it is. It was kind of like Puljujarvi with McDavid a few seasons ago. Like McDavid's 5-on-5 numbers were excellent with Puljujarvi. Bedard has very good numbers with Donato. Just is what it is. I'm interested in the Chicago 1 here tonight. Now they're coming in at 8.5% projected ownership, but they are only 14,000. Might be a little bit more with Donato there. I don't know who's more expensive, Donato or Beauvillier, but they're probably around the same price.
No, Donato's min price.
Oh, so they're going to be cheaper. I like Chicago 1 here. I like Columbus 2. This game sucks, but like someone's going to score in a suck game, and give me Bedard tonight.
I mean, does someone have to score like necessarily? Like maybe we get a 0-0 going to a shootout. I hope not.
Hell the copium for some Bedards.
Yeah. I wrote up Yegor Chinnikov in the picks article today, specifically because, as you mentioned with Jason Dickinson, that line is a tremendous shutdown line. Now, they got ran over by Nathan MacKinnon the other night.
It happens.
It's the Nathan MacKinnon line. Like, what are you going to do? Columbus 1 has been, as you mentioned, has been very, very good. 3.7 expected goals, 4.9 actual goals per 60, and 185 minutes together. They've been generating a lot. Jack Roslovic, like 29 shots in his last 9 games, and he got moved to the top power play unit in place of Kent Johnson. And Adam Bogfist is out, but he's back tonight. So, I mean, maybe they changed the power play units back. Like, I honestly, man, like, when you have a team like this running 4 defensemen on their 2 power plays, that's when you know they're just completely out of ideas. Anyways, the top line for Columbus has been very, very good offensively. But as you mentioned, they're going to that Jason Dickinson line. Even with getting run over by MacKinnon, they're still only at 1.9 expected goals against, 1.8 actual goals against for 60 minutes. Like, it's just stupid how good they are. Chicago not taking many penalties either, 2.5 minor penalties per game over the last 8 weeks. That's amongst the lowest in the league. Actually, I think only Seattle and Vegas are lower. So they're not taking any penalties at all. Not that Columbus's power play really does a whole lot, but they are going to see the Dickinson line, so I don't really like them that much. It is the Marchenko, Chinnikov, Voronkov line. Now, I talked about it on Twitter this morning. Chinnikov got benched in the last game. Like, he had a turnover inside the blue line, and Carolina went the other way. Brady Shea just got out of the penalty box and scored. But I'm going to be honest. If Brady Shea, a defenseman from Carolina, gets behind Ivan Provorov and then beats Ivan Provorov in a foot race and then one-hands the puck past the goalie, there's a lot more that went wrong on that play than Chinnikov turning the puck over inside the blue line. Like, oh my God, guys, get this together. It was one of those plays that it was like, I see why this team is headed towards the lottery again. Like, oh my God, it was bad.
They're atrocious. They're a terrible team.
But the second line, as you mentioned, have been generating a lot more expected goals, 3.3 expected goals per 60. Going back to January 1st, Yegor Chinnikov has been very productive this season. He leads Columbus in goals per 60, points per 60, and shot attempts per 60, all at 5-on-5.
Benches per 60, but
yeah. And with Chicago's very disciplined play, you're really not worried about Gojo and Jenner and those guys on the top power play unit. Like, take those power play minutes, whatever. I do kind of like Columbus too here as a filler type stack. They're only 13K. You can put them with your Toronto, your Boston, Ottawa, whatever. So I do like Columbus too in this matchup. I do like the Bedard line in this matchup as well, because they are going to see a bit of that Columbus second line. They've generally not been very good defensively this season. The Chicago top line's been a lot better. I don't know why they ever took Ryan Donato off, as you said. 2.8 expected goals, 3.5 actual goals per 60 at 5-on-5. Like, at least they look like an NHL team when he's on the ice, rather than just 4 guys watching Connor Bedard play hockey. And they're going to get second and third line matchups from Columbus. They're going to avoid the Boone Jenner line. So, not that they've been great defensively, but that's certainly a tick in their upside for their upside. Columbus has been taking more penalties, above average in that sense, over the last 2 months, where they weren't taking a lot through the first 2 to 3 months of the season. Penalty kill still atrocious. So yeah, I do like Chicago 1. I will kind of shout out Chicago 3 here. Now, I can't believe I'm saying I'm kind of shouting out Chicago 3. Nick Foligno, Tyler Johnson on the top power play unit. And Columbus's penalty kill remains absolutely atrocious. You don't need a lot from those guys at those prices to really pay off. Foligno's only 4K. Tyler Johnson, he's also 4K. Don't need a lot from them to pay off. Like one goal might be enough. One goal and a few shots. 2 goals would be perfect. Don't mind them as a filler, cheap-ish filler type, but I like Chicago 1 a lot more with Ryan Donato there, and Columbus 2 certainly play as well.
Yeah. This is the second time this season you have touted Chicago 3. It worked out the first time. They did score. Zoltan. We'll just say Zoltan. I don't know what else to say. Pittsburgh Penguins with a 2.9 total heading into Calgary. The Flames have a 3.1. Did you see the scathing comments from Jacob Markstrom yesterday?
He's just saying what everybody's thinking.
Yeah, good for him. Like he was like reserved too. Like he could have absolutely just unloaded. He also looks like John Rocker, which is a bit concerning, but that's neither here nor there. I don't know what Pittsburgh's doing with their lives. I
mean, yeah, they have Brian Rust and Jake Gensel injured, and the only other guy that's actually playing well is Crosby and maybe Lars Eller. Like, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, I mean, their top power play unit has Valtteri Puustinen and Lars Eller on it. Classic Dubas, coming into a situation where he should probably rebuild and go trade for a 97-year-old defenseman who hasn't really helped. I mean, Carlson has had a pretty good season, but I don't know. I'm just rambling. I don't really love Pittsburgh here. Pittsburgh 1 is going to see that Coleman Backlund Mangiapane matchup, and I don't really want to stack against that line. Malkin, Puustinen, O'Connor, I guess is okay as a filler. Like, I'm not going to prioritize them in one lineup, and you're not even getting Malkin on the top power play unit. Puustinen's there. I like Drew O'Connor as a player, but there's other filler lines that I like better in 20 max if it happens to get in there. Sure. There's another one in this game that I like better, which you guys already know. My interest is on the Calgary side. And it's our boys. Kadri Zari Pastosil, 12.5. I don't okay, 12.5 is cheap, right? But you're getting a lot of minutes with Nazem Kadri. That dude just doesn't leave the ice. It's the minutes with Pospisil and Zari that you have to worry about. And now they're playing a bit more. There's no real matchup on Pittsburgh's side that concerns me. They're coming in at 3.7% projected. Fine. You know what I mean? If you're worried about ownership, it's still less than the Duchesne line that's getting 4.4 or whatever. So it's Kadri, Zari, Pospisil, and I think what's his face is back.
Kuzmenko.
Thank you. He's back with Sharon Govich and Huberdeau. That line's fully correlated now. If you want to play them, go ahead. But it's Kadri, Zari, Pospisil for me in this game. I don't have a ton of interest in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I don't mind Pitt 1 here. Crosby's trying his best to drag this team to the playoffs. It's probably not going to work, but he is trying. Crosby and Raquel, they don't really have great offensive numbers without Brian Rust and Jake Gensel in the lineup, but they are around league average. And, at a certain point, Calgary's going to end up trading enough players where the team's just bad, right? They traded Lindholm. I don't think much of Lindholm, but, he's a third liner, whatever. Replacing Lindholm with Andrei Kuzmenko is a monster downgrade, defensively at least. I think we can agree on that. And trading Chris Tanev hurts, right? They don't have anyone nearly as good defensively as Chris Tanev was. So I don't mind Pitt 1. I think I agree with you. It'd be more if they get in in my lineup in a 20 max. Certainly if you're playing 150, you're going to have them. I think like just because they're not that expensive, like a one-off Ricard Raquel at 5,100, I think is okay if you want to go in that direction. But it is the Calgary side I do have more interest in. If you want to go play that backline line, I think that's fine. They've been getting some reasonable minutes since Lindholm's been getting traded. Not a ton of ownership, 6.7%. Like they're coming in with negative leverage, but if one thing Pittsburgh has and has had basically all season, it's a pretty good penalty kill. And Penguins don't take a lot of penalties. So, you don't really need to stack like the Huberdeau line for power play stacking. You don't need to, shove in Kadri and Pospisil and all that. So I don't mind the Coleman Backlund Mangiapane line coming in at 6.7% per the top stacks tool. I agree with you though. It's back to Kadri's are impossible. So like I wrote up Kadri in the picks article. I seem to write him up at least like once a week.
He's playing great.
25 games since Christmas. He has 13 goals, 27 points, and 3.3 shots per game. He's up over 19 minutes a game in his last 7. Now that Tanev's or Lindholm's out of the lineup, and they're not giving the Huberdeau as much ice time because, Kuzmenko sucks. So they have to play everybody else more. I do like the Kadri line here. I think they're perfectly fine as a filler. I think I prefer Coleman Backlund Mangiapane almost just because you don't need to stack Calgary for any power play reasons here tonight. But Kadri's one of my favorite centers just on the slate, period. And yeah, Pittsburgh one's in play, but I think it's not so much single entry. It's more like 20 max, 115, things like that.
Yeah, like I don't know what Calgary front office is doing really, but like they should be calling up Jacob Peltier. They should be calling up Matt Coronado, get these kids in the lineup, bring up Wolf, send Markstrom to New Jersey for King's ransom, send anything that's tradable. They should have burnt it down last year. Thanks, Treveling. Now he's burning down the Leafs. We do love to see it. We really do. Let's talk about some defensemen. Because there isn't another game. I was getting ready to introduce the next game, but that was the last game on the slate. Rasmus Dahlin, top of the board at 7,300. Noah Dobson, Zach Werenski, Mike Matheson, Charlie McAvoy, Victor Hedman. Now, I think Rasmus Dahlin still is playing ridiculous amount. I saw something he was playing he played over 29 minutes in 7 of his last 10 games or something like that, or it's some ridiculous defenseman. 7,300 for 30 minutes in that matchup. Just give me Dahlin. I think Werenski's fine. Victor Hedman obviously sticks out to me. Who else you liking?
Yeah, Dahlin's number one on my board. A lot, especially for DraftKings, just because of the peripherals. I wrote him about him in the picks article. He's the only defenseman in the NHL to be averaging at least 3 shots and 2 blocks per game. No other defenseman is doing that. It's a lot of peripherals, and you talk about his ice time. If peripherals can, if ice time can help one thing, it's rack up peripherals. He's over 29 minutes in 4 of his last 5 games, over 30 in 2 of those. So, I do like that. Nice. I'll add Noah Dobson. His ice time is coming down, but so is his price on DraftKings. I don't like Noah Dobson over 7K. Somewhere in the mid 6s. I think that's certainly playable. Mid-price range, both Dallas top defensemen, Heiskanen and Harley. I prefer Harley in this matchup. As I said, I like the power play too a little bit better here. Mackenzie Weegar running the top power play unit for Calgary. It's not as important, but he's another guy whose price has finally come down. This is a guy in the mid 6s for a while. He's down to 5,700 on DK. I don't mind that. Cheap guys, wrote up Adam Pelech. He's the guy, one of the defensemen that's been getting more ice time at the expense of Noah Dobson. He's only, I think, 3,300 on DK, averaged about 21 and a half minutes, and he gets about 2 blocks per game every 21 and a half minutes. So don't mind Pelech. Our old buddy Yam Cork for Philly. Drysdale out, Ellis out, Ristolainen out. Cork's been getting, it's Cam York. He's been getting 22 minutes, give or take, regularly, has 3 points this week. I'll take Cam York. S.L. Lindell from Dallas for kind of the same reasons that we talked about with Harley and Heiskanen. Alex Vlasic in Chicago. Columbus actually does generate a fair amount of shots. He's only 3K. Don't mind him. There's a lot of cheap guys, like really, really like basement cheap guys. We should mention Lyubushkin is only 2,500 for Toronto. I don't really like him, but if you need a Stoneman defenseman, Derek Forbort and Eric Chernak, same thing, 2,500. And I'll mention Arbor Jackeye. I didn't like playing Jackeye for 2,700 or 2,600 when he's getting 13 minutes, but he's getting like 16, 17 minutes of late. Don't mind that in what's not a bad matchup against Tampa.
Yeah, the one guy I'll add, I had him written down because he's cheap. 2,800, Kevin Korchinski. He's played over 20 minutes 3 of the last 4 games. He has a little bit offensive upside, I guess. I mean,
I call him Kevin Torchinski because he gets smoked on defense.
Yeah. But you know, he's still got a bowl cut in 2024. But
I mean, somebody they have to fill out the 60 minutes of the game. Somebody has to play those minutes.
Yeah, and then they don't want to give what's his? I don't know. Let's talk about some goalies. Jake Ottinger, 8,500. Seth in chat. I don't mind him, but it's more of like that's more of a cash gameplay. You would need a shutout. He definitely has shutout upside. I'm not saying make the room for Ottinger, but if you happen to get to your goal and you have 8,500 available, I don't mind clicking him in. Vasilevsky at 8,300 is okay, but like I like Montreal one more than I like Vasilevsky here tonight. Oh boy, Logan Thompson at 7,900. I don't mind. Markstrom at 7,800. Pissed off Markstrom is good. Markstrom. Igor. Listen, you can call me a homer all you want. He's had a great month. Igor at 7,700 is fine. It is Samsonov in net for the Leafs. Don't really like that. I think Yari and Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen are also like there isn't a goalie that really stands out besides Sorokin at home at 7,200, which is kind of ridiculous. I guess you could play Magnus Krona for the Sharks. Like, I don't really want to play Magnus Krona. I think Caden Primo would be the guy under 7K if I had to go down there, or min-price Matt Sogard. Like, anytime it doesn't matter the name, if there's a min-price goalie starting, you can play him.
I mean, I think you just named every goalie. Like, I don't know which one I'm supposed to say here.
Just went down the list.
Yeah. I wrote up Peter Mrazek, like at home to Columbus. Columbus doesn't have a good power play anyway. Chicago should be able to shut them down there. Lots of 5-on-5 shots. I like that. Jacob Markstrom. It's Mika Kaprizov's number retirement night tonight, I think, in Calgary. Mm-hmm. If Jacob Markstrom turns in a bad performance in Mika Kaprizov's number retirement, like Markstrom might be traded by tomorrow morning. So I'm just kind of kidding, but I do like Markstrom against Pittsburgh because Pittsburgh can't score on the power play. Ilya Sorokin at his price, certainly against Boston, 7,200. I'll mention Logan Thompson as well, 7,900 on the road in Buffalo. There's a lot of games where Buffalo puts up like 40 shots and 1 goal because they've completely revamped their offense for the worse. And they're just getting a lot of shots from the perimeter, and Logan Thompson can handle those.
Yeah, I literally did like name every single goalie.
I think the only one you left off is Sandstorm.
Yeah, and I went to go looking for him because I couldn't find him, but he's 7,900. I was kind of hoping Peterson would start because he's min-price, and I'm a big Peterson slappy when he was on the Kings. But who are you liking for your hat trick pick?
No bagel, Brandon Hagel. Let's see if he can do it tonight against my Montreal Canadiens.
Matt Duchene.
I like it.
I think we're going to be back on Monday. There's a decent Monday slate, so we'll be back Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday next week. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thank you for the support with the affiliate links. Just thank you. And good luck tonight. We'll see you on Monday.
Good luck tonight, everybody.